I done got fancy on you. Let me tell you something. I'm in awe of the video I just made. All right. Welcome to Single You, the podcast live. You know, I'm your host, Rika. And you know what I'm going to ask you. Can you hear me? Please type, I can hear you in the comments. And also, where are you listening from? What up, Shalonda? Great evening. This beat goes hard. Right. Right. I found that on Canva. Okay. Not even gonna lie. First of all, shout out to my nails being painted, because I never paint my fingernails. My toenails, I'll paint all the time. But it's something about my fingernails that I never really liked being painted. But I had a photo shoot yesterday for Single You, the pillow collection, which drops on March 17th. And I was like, I should probably get my nails done, like my fingers. Because when I say I'm getting my nails done, I just mean my toes. But so I'm like, every time I'm doing this, I'm like, what is, oh, that's nail polish. Okay. Sarah, what up? Hey, Kalisha. It's Kalisha. I ask you that every week, but I just want to make sure, because I hate it when people would say my name wrong. You know, being Rika, a lot of people don't hear that name. So they say they spell it wrong more than they say it wrong. But yeah. So anyway, who likes like when you get your nails done, do you also get your fingers done too? Or are you like me and I only do clear? Like I'm a clear girl. Now on the toes, which I'm not going to show you because that would be weird if I was like, so let me show you my toes. On the toes, I always do white. So yeah, when you get your nails done, type in the comments. Do you do your fingers as well? I just want to know, or am I just weird because I'm not that girly? I don't know. Okay. All right. If you are watching Single You, the podcast live on my Just Me Rika Inspires page,
please share this video. If you're watching it in the singleness is not a punishment group, you won't be able to share it because that's a private group. But on my Just Me Rika Inspires page, please share the video. It helps the algorithm. Mark Zuckerberg goes, oh, people like Rika. Let me get more people to watch her video. Because, you know, my message is always singleness is not a punishment and you are worthy regardless of your relationship status. And I know that you want women like you to continue to hear this message just like you like it. Okay. Kalisha says, I do both. Shalonda, not that girl either. Yeah, Sarah, I don't often get the Manny either. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why that is. It just looks weird. All right, let's go ahead and get into today's guest. I love this woman, and I have known of her existence since I was 25. I'm about to be 38 in June, so that's a long time that I have known her. We have not caught up in the longest time, but somehow we met each other back again 2-3 weeks ago on Clubhouse. And I was like, oh my God, Stacy, I need to have you on my podcast. Like, what is happening? I need to have you on my podcast because Stacy has a story that will help you as well. So let me go ahead and introduce her and bring her into the room as well. But first, I have to give her the grandest introduction. Stacy Pates is an international television and podcast host, sideline reporter, author, documentary filmmaker, woman's sports apparel designer. She lives in LA, and she writes, girl, I've had 3 serious relationships in my life, and the last one ended in 2010. I thought he was the one, and he left me, and I still don't know why. Yeah, her journey through that. Also, she's been abstinent for over 6 years, but before she even met that guy, she had been abstinent for 12 years. Oh, we gonna talk about it, okay? She writes, I have little dating experience overall, and I do know what I want, and I deserve everything that I want, and I will not settle. Stacy Pates, welcome to Single You, the podcast live. What up?
Hey, Rika, thank you so much for having me. 2 things, your nails look good, and I love you too. I love you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're such a strong woman, and you've always been that way to me. You were always somebody that I was like, she is so dope to me. She is so dope. And so we can talk about how we met and what you do as your career. And then, of course, we're going to get into the relationship stuff, right?
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't know, I used to live in Indianapolis. I lived in Indianapolis literally for 5 years, from 25 to 30, doing radio on a radio station there called Radio. I was going to say Power 99.1. Lord, that's the station I'm at now. Radio Now 100.9. Shout out to all my Indianapolis people. And that's how I met you. And at that time, you were a sideline reporter. You were on TV, all of that. I don't even know. How did we meet? Was it through Scott?
I think it was through my little brother, Scott Evans, who is out in LA here now too. He hosts World of Dance with Jennifer Lopez, or for Jennifer Lopez. He's also Access Hollywood. He's their host, and he's all the things. I fell in love with him when he was 7 years old, and he's 32 now. And
I was gonna say Scott's a little younger than me. So
yeah. I brought him into my family and adopted him basically. And he's the love. And I'm so thankful that he introduced me to you. And I was hosting pregame, halftime, postgame for the Indiana Pacers, and I was doing sideline reporting. And do you remember when we played in the charity basketball game together?
Yes, I still have that jersey.
I do too. Yes, I do too. That was so much fun. And Scott emceed it. And my brother Matthew played, and he got a dunk in that game.
You remember that so much. We were celebrity. It's so funny.
We were the celebrities. Yep. We were the celebrities.
Yeah. I'm like, I mean, I guess I feel like Beyonce. Sure, I'll be a celebrity.
Why not?
Sure.
Why not? Well, listen, Indy loved you. Indy loved you, and I'm sure that they love you where you are now too.
Yeah, no, some of my best friends still live in Indianapolis. So Adrian still lives there. My girl Lori, who's from there, she just moved to Florida though. But yeah, no, Indianapolis is still like, that was my first full-time radio job. And I was so, and I was just talking to Rain. Do you remember Rain?
I do.
I was just talking to him yesterday, and I was like,
Oh,
dude, we had a good run, man. We had a
so
good
good.
run. We
So good.
ran that city.
And what a
Mhm.
great city. What a great city to start. You know, you
Yeah.
can get instantly connected. We've got a pro football team, a pro
Yep.
basketball team. I'm born and raised in Indiana, so
Yeah.
I'm obviously in love with that state. I won't move back, but I love it.
Right.
That's my home.
Right.
Yeah. So what a great place for you to
Girl, I
start.
remember living there, and y'all, maybe not you, but y'all tried to make me a Colts fan so bad. And I was like, Seattle all day, baby. Go Hawks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's my quarterback. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. That's what, listen.
Yeah.
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 It would be like me going somewhere and trying to be converted to another team. I get it. I feel it. I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. And the Colts is as big to Indianapolis as the Seahawks are to Seattle. So it was like,
Absolutely.
it was fun when Seattle doesn't play the Colts all the time, not every season, but when
Right.
they did, that was fun. And I believe that we won every time. Okay. All right. So let's get into your career, how you got started and why you moved to LA and what you're doing now. Because I know you love TD Jakes. You're a Christian as well. You go to church, you have a relationship with God and stuff. And TD Jakes said one time in a sermon I was listening to that he finds in his counseling of women, especially women, some men, that women are waiting. Single women wait. They're not living their life. They're just waiting for the guy. They're waiting to do all of the things. And they're waiting for that marriage, for that boyfriend, instead of living. And I feel like even though we've had our trials and tribulations, we have lived, and you've done so much with your life as a single woman, no kids. And it's beautiful. So as Stacy is sharing her story, just think about that. If you are a single woman watching and listening, you need to start living your life.
Mm-hmm.
We are not putting on pause for nobody.
No. No.
And I've never been that way. I've never been the person to wait. But yeah, so start with your career being the sideline reporter. You're on TV. You're doing all of these wonderful things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I knew at age 15. I'm one of those rare people that when I was 15, I saw Chris Berman on ESPN Sports Center, and I looked at my mom. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. She's like, all right, baby, do it. And so with her endorsement, I feel like I can do anything except go to space. She will not let me go to space. And that's something I'm going to make sure she watches this back, because if I get enough people on board with me, she's like, no, I'm grounded from space. She won't even let me visit NASA. It's not okay.
Why, Mom?
It's not okay. She said, I've already done enough. So
Oh.
I've jumped out of airplanes. I've driven a race car. She's like, no, you've done enough. Not going to space.
Yeah.
But other than that, I get her endorsement on everything. So I knew at 15. Flash forward, I did my internship early. I went to Ball State in Indiana. David Letterman that's where he graduated from. He's also from Indianapolis. And just from there, everything just really progressed. And I say to this day, and I will never change my story, that God is the reason. There is no other possible reason that I should have been on the career track as soon as I was than if it weren't for God's grace and if it weren't for him paving that way for me. Because from the town, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, being from Indianapolis and you're a woman trying to break into sports.
And I'm from outside of Indianapolis. I'm from a small town of 750 humans. 750 humans.
We don't count the cows. Just the humans.
We don't. No, because we're probably outnumbered by the cows.
Right.
But so that's why I say, like, there's no other reason but God. And I did the work, and I was easy to work with, and my attitude was good, but it was him, all the way him. And I had my first show on ESPN when I was 19. I did my first story, and then I was hosting a show on ESPN at 25. And from there, it just progressed. I did college football. I did traveled with the NFL for a little while. And then the Pacers came as an opportunity. So I left ESPN, went to Fox, and I was the first female and the youngest person to join the NBA to be host for the pregame, halftime, and postgame show, as well as sideline reporting. So I did all of that for 7 years, and I loved it. I loved being in my home state, being able to cover basketball, because basketball is everything in Indianapolis and Indiana in general. And it was such a great run, such a great ride. And when my contract there came to an end, my brother was already living out in LA. and he is my best friend, him and my mom. And he said, you know what? You're ready for a change. I think you should come to LA. Never would have dreamed I would move to Los Angeles. I am way too simple. I am way too easygoing. I'm a person of my word. Like, I don't fit in here with a lot of folks just because
You're not trying to keep up with the
no.
So before we get to the LA story, I want to there's two things that I want to mention.
Yep.
Do you remember? So you mentioned David Letterman he went to Ball State and he's from Indianapolis. Were you there when Oprah and David Letterman were at Ball State and they did that interview, like the revealing of like the auditorium name? Were you there yet? Okay.
No, I was not.
Let me tell you about not putting life on pause, right? So I don't know if you know this, but I am one of Oprah's illegitimate children. She just
believe it.
Know yet, right? Okay.
I believe it.
And so obviously I was on the radio at that time. And they only gave like tickets away to like certain people, right? And I don't remember how exactly I got my hands on tickets, but I got my hands on them dang on tickets.
Yes.
Because I was like, what you will not do is have my mother, Oprah, down the street from me, and I'm not sitting in the audience. That will not ever happen. So no, I definitely was there, and I still have the T-shirt that said like I saw Oprah and David Letterman or something. So just to be in their presence, and I've seen Oprah. You know, she used to do those like wellness tours or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think she still will continue. It's just been COVID. But so I've seen her since then. But that was the first time I saw her with my own two eyes. 12-year-old Rika was really happy.
Mm-hmm.
She was
That's
really
awesome. I love that.
And so now, sports and being a woman in this industry, we have a little bit more women as faces of sports. So what do you think it's easier now? So say another 15-year-old like you is like, I want to do that. Do you think it's easier now as a woman?
I think it depends. I would say yes and no. I think it might depend on how you get your start, the path you take, who you know is a big piece of it nowadays. And sadly, what breaks my heart now, looking at many of the women on air, so many of them, it's not necessarily what they know, it's how they look. And that disappoints me because I feel like a lot of people look at the American dream, as they call it, is the blonde and the blue-eyed. And to me, to me, of course, there are many beautiful blonde, blue-eyed women out there and on TV as well. But I just think for someone like myself, I'm Polynesian, Cherokee Indian. It should be easier, but it just depends. I think right place, right time. I think it's effort. It's grind. It's grit. And those are some things you can't teach. You can't teach the grind. You can't teach the attitude of just like you not going to miss your mom, Oprah. I'm not going to miss an opportunity, and I'm going to prove myself. And as a woman, I have to prove myself even more, even though I've been in the game for a long time. There's still that underlying feeling that you have to prove yourself, because if a man asks a question, one of my biggest pet peeves is the question, how do you feel? Like after a win, how do you feel? If a man asked that question, it wouldn't be thought twice about, right? If a woman asks that question, they're the dumbest girl in the room. And
why would she ask that?
Yep.
Okay, so now let's get to going to LA. So your contract was up with the Pacers, and you decided this Midwestern. Does Indianapolis, is that Midwestern?
Yeah, Midwest.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. This Midwestern girl is going to LA. How old were you then?
I was 37.
Yeah.
37. So
never lived outside of Indianapolis.
Nope. So to pick up and move at that time in my life, and I owned a house near Eagle Creek, right near the Colts complex.
Yes.
And I used to sneak and watch them practice because there was a great running trail. So I used to sneak and watch and see what I could see. I would all the time.
I know that's right. That's right. Well, first, okay, about your house. How old were you when you bought your first house?
I was 29.
And you didn't have a husband, did you?
Nope. No, man.
Exactly.
No, man.
Yeah. It's so funny. I'm like always like either right behind you or we're doing it at the same time. I bought this house at 30.
Yes.
So when I was 30, I bought this house. Yeah. And no husband.
Yeah.
Empty ring finger. Yeah.
That's
okay.
Cool.
Right. Okay. So LA. Keep going.
Yes. So I never imagined myself in LA. You know, I've been here many times, love the weather, love the vibe in terms of food, so many places to eat. Like you could eat at a different place. I love food. You could eat at a different place, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 365, and never have to visit the same place. So I love all the options. And of course the weather, and the easiest sell was being near my brother. But it was very difficult moving here. Like two things I really thought would happen. I thought I would have so much more work opportunities by virtue of in LA. And then I also thought I would have an easier time dating and meeting men per capita. There's just more dudes here than there are in Indy, but both were very challenging, and one more challenging than the other, the dating piece that we'll get to later. But just came out here and just kept grinding, kept knowing, you know, kept my vision and alignment and knowing exactly what I wanted to do, and picked up little projects here and there. Still did some TNT work covering basketball playoffs and different things like that, but definitely not as consistent as the NBA when I was with the Pacers. That was, I mean, that's a lot of games. That's over 100 games a year for 7 straight years. So I kind of welcomed that break and being able to put the suitcase away instead of having to live out of it. So that was a nice little break.
Yeah. So you, we talked about this on the phone and off air and even in Clubhouse a little bit. Like, I'm like, Stacy is making me sad about moving to a bigger city. Because I'm like, wait, the men don't get better.
There's more, but they're not necessarily better.
Right. Exactly. So if you're just tuning in, just so you know, Stacy Pates is not married, no kids, still single, which is okay. And you are living a happily single life now.
Yes.
So let's rewind the tape a little bit. When you were younger, I think your first relationship, because you wrote that you know you've only been in 3 serious ones. Mm-hmm. So that first relationship, I know a little bit of the story, but I only want you to share whatever is comfortable for you. So let's talk about that relationship. And before you even get to that, I just want to know, before that relationship, how did you learn about relationships? Like, what did you think? Do you remember what your thought process was about relationships at that time?
I didn't know a lot about them. This was you're right, my first boyfriend, my first everything. Yeah. And I was a freshman in high school. It was the college, freshman in college, second semester. And I ended up spending my pretty much entire college career with him. And I didn't know much about relationships because I really didn't have any. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. I just knew I wanted to be a good athlete, and then I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to just focus on my career. So I really didn't think much about it. I mean, there were a couple of guys I was interested in high school, but other than that, I really couldn't be bothered. And then I met this guy in college, and he was on the football team, and you know, it started out great. We had a lot of fun together, and I think after 8 months, I knew that he was not meant to be in my life. But I had no experience, and other experience that I did have from my childhood, the way he treated me after that 8-month mark felt normal. And what I mean by that is being emotionally and verbally abused, which I had experience with. And that seemed normal. And because I was, again, so young that I couldn't separate the fact that, no, this is not how I knew I shouldn't be treated that way, but I couldn't separate the fact that you can make that boundary and say, no, you're not going to treat me that way. I wasn't there yet. There yet. And I'm grateful to say I'm there now. Now it's a whole different story. Now it's like, you said what?
Right.
You said what?
Excuse me.
Bye-bye. Yeah. There's no second chances on that, because so the way that progressed, it just got tougher.
Well, I want to pause you right there, because I feel like this is a teaching moment right here. I love how, like, you said that, you know, your vision for your life was, at least in the career and sports arena, was that college. I'm going to be this athlete. You had vision. Yeah. But I find it so, I don't want to say odd or funny, or I don't know what the word is, but I think it's really sad that we're not given and not told that we need to have vision for how we want to be in relationships, right? Because I know that I had asked you when you were younger, did anybody tell you about relationships? Do you remember your answer? If not, I can read a little bit of it.
Read it for me. I believe I remember some of it, but I know obviously writing it down, it'll sound better coming from you.
Right. So I always ask every single one of my guests in the questionnaire that I give before the podcast and on the podcast, you know, when you were younger, how did you learn about relationships? And did anybody ever have that conversation with you about what makes a healthy relationship versus unhealthy? And you said, in my family, I have a few examples of strong and lasting marriages, which have blessed me. But when I was younger, my relationship knowledge was based on what I saw in society. And as a woman, we must be married by 30 or we will never have a chance, and blah, 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 blah. Like you put exactly, right? So, so the vision that we are given is through TV, society, on what they say. So when you're younger and you're in this relationship and you don't realize you're allowed to set a boundary, it's only because you don't know that. And also because, well, I have to be in a relationship because that's what they told me. So I guess since I like this guy, I'm going to try to work it out with him, not knowing psychology and humanness, that people don't change because because you want them to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And being from a small town as well, I went to high school with girls that had babies by the time they were 18, you know, married by 21. Yeah. That was just normal. That was normal. And I knew I didn't want that part for my life, not that early, because there was just too much I wanted to do. But yeah, that relationship, my college relationship, was very challenging, to say the least. It turned very abusive. I was definitely frightened for my life at times. And one of my girlfriends that I'd known since age 5 was also dating a guy that she got engaged to. She was also at Ball State with me. We didn't live together, but we had a plan. She wanted to leave him and I wanted to leave mine. And we thought we could be stronger together to do it. Right. And her story did not end well. She lost her life at the end of a pistol, and he took his own as well. So it was a murder-suicide. And he also shot another one of our guy friends from high school who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah. And what made me get out of that abusive relationship was the phone call that I got the morning that people were starting to find out that someone was murdered at Ball State by their boyfriend. And I got the call. And as soon as I picked up the phone, I'll never forget, my girlfriend, Heather, as soon as I said hello, she lost it. And all she said was, "Oh my God, we thought it was you." And throughout that abusive relationship, I thought I was hiding it. I really thought I was hiding it. I would have bruises on my body. I play basketball. I just said, oh, I was playing with the guys. I thought I was hiding it, but people knew. People knew. I hadn't told a soul, and people knew. So that was my wake-up call when they said, "Oh my God, we thought it was you." And it was days later, I called him, and thankfully he had already graduated. He was back in a different state. And I called him and I said, "We're done. This is not God's best for me, and we're done." And thankfully it was a wrap. Like as soon as it was over, it was over. There was I think the separation of states helped a lot. Yeah. And there was also no swaying me. When I have my mind made up, it's done. Yeah. So, yeah.
I just want to take a moment, maybe about 2 seconds, just to, rest in peace, your friend.
Thank you.
Because I remember when you told me that story, I was like, Stacy, I have never heard this story before in my life. Yeah. What? Yeah. What?
Yeah. It's not one I share unless I know it's for a purpose to save a life or lives. Right. And yeah.
And that's why when I asked you if you wanted to be on the podcast, I was like, listen, we don't even have to talk about that if you don't want to. And you said, no, I can share that now. And I know you have shared it before. I know after that, I don't know if it was months or years later, you even shared it years later. Yeah. You shared it on like the news or something in Indianapolis, right?
Yes. And
So
that was to raise money. I was petrified. Oh my gosh, I was
yeah,
petrified because I was with the Pacers at the time. So I thought, oh my gosh, what are the fans going to think? What is the organization going to think? But I had to save lives. I was on a mission. There were money needed to be raised for a women's shelter, women and children shelter that were victims of abuse, domestic abuse.
Isn't that sad that we have to go, what are they going to think of me because I allowed a guy to abuse me?
Yes.
Like, what? Like, because I thought that too. For 3 months, I was like, I am never telling. I'm the dumbest woman in the world. I would never tell anybody this story.
Yep.
And that's why I do this, right? Because I'm like, I need to create a space where we are allowed to talk about this.
Mm-hmm. And you have, Rika, created that space. God bless your work. This is important work that you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, you said it right there. God has blessed this. He told me he was going to use my story. And at first I was like, no, you're not. Like, we not doing that. My parents will know? Absolutely not. So I do want to use this as a teaching moment as well, right? You said 8 months in of that relationship that you knew he wasn't for you. What were those signs? What do we need to be watching out for as women? Say another 22-year-old in college is, well, I don't know if you're 22 in college and what, 19 or whatever, but 25, 35, I have clients who are 41. Mm-hmm. What do we need to hear for us to get out of that? So what were those signs?
Trust your instinct is the main thing that I can say. If he calls you out of your name, first of all, come on now. Come on. That is not okay. And we are all entitled to have a bad day. Yeah. But to berate or to attack the other human that you say that you love and care about. And a lot of times those issues don't have to do with you. They have to do with that person, that man. Absolutely. In this situation, but you're also not meant to save them. You can guide them, you can plant seeds, but you are not meant to be a punching bag. Literally, you're not meant to be a doormat, to be put down, to be talked to like you're nothing. And those were certain red flags for me: calling me out of my name, putting me down, body shaming me. And I've always been very pleasant and easy to get along with. And I talk to everybody. I don't see a difference in people. Like, even when I was with the Pacers, some people used to look at me crazy because I would talk to the janitors the exact same way I would talk to Reggie Miller. I don't care. Like, I don't see the difference. Right. And that's how I was raised. Thank you, Mama. But there was one story when I was walking on campus and I'm holding this man's hand, and a guy that I went to high school with walked by me, and I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And he walked by me. I'm holding my man's hand, and I say, "Oh, hi, Dan." You would have thought I just committed adultery in front of this man. Yep. It was the worst. It was the worst because just because I said hello to another man. And again, that was a reflection of his insecurity, but I was the one attacked for it. I was the one.
100%. Yeah. 100%. My friend Sandra, she says, Stacy is such a soldier and so deserving of all the good things. Thanks for sharing your story. You are. And that is a sign right there. I want to, that's a teaching moment as well, because my, verbally abusive ex, and even my $10,000 boyfriend, the jealousy factor. If you were at, and I say this a lot now because I know better now, but those are men who are at war with themselves. Yeah. And that's a moving target. Yes. And yes, that is God's son. But that doesn't mean that I have to be with him. That's right. That's right. You know? God can love him. Yeah. God can love him through it. Yeah. God can guide him through it. We're not meant to be martyrs. No. I'm not here to save you, boo-boo. Jesus did that already. That's right. That's right. That's right. I will love you. I will lift you up, but and we can't be their everything. And that's another mistake that I made in that relationship, because I was young, and you know what? Age doesn't even matter. When we put too much on a man to be our everything, we lose ourselves, right? And I definitely lost who I was in that relationship. And I vowed after that I would not make that mistake again. And I'm so grateful that I didn't. But it's so easy to put everything on a man, because,
you know, he's the closest to us and there's intimacy there. And there's, you know,
Yeah.
we can't sit close enough to him on the couch type feeling. But we also, a mistake I also made in that relationship that I have never and will never make again is I lost my girls. Like I didn't lose them all the way, but I definitely spent more time with him when I could have been with them. And that's another mistake I will never make again.
Yeah.
Do not lose the people close to you for anybody.
For anybody. I who was I talking to on this platform about that? I can't remember, but I felt like I lost so much time with my friends, especially when I was in Indianapolis. Here, I felt isolated already. So that's another story. But I don't know if you remember Ron Minor.
I do. Yes.
DJ. Indiana Jones, rest in peace.
Yes. Rest in peace.
But when I found out that he died, I was like, dude, the amount of party, like he was my dude. He threw me parties every year. And the amount of times that I did not go to an event he was doing or whatever, because the boyfriend at that time was so jealous.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have time for that no more, boo-boo. I don't. I don't. Yes, you were allowed to ask me questions. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And you're allowed to voice, you know, something's coming up for me. I don't know why I'm feeling jealous, but something's happening here.
Yeah.
Allow me to talk about it. Allow me to share with you. Allow me to look at you and say, you're my guy, period, end of story. And I can't wait to introduce you as that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I want to move on to the LA. Is the second one the LA relationship, or?
I was in Indy. I was in Indy. Okay. Yeah. The one from 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know when we were off air, you said that you felt like you did everything right in that relationship. And so we are going to get into that. Yeah. But so in the process of healing, well, how did you heal? I mean, losing one of your really good friends and that relationship, what did you do to heal, to go through that? Because I know, thank God you had your mom, and like you said, your brother, you're really close. So I'm sure you leaned on them a lot. But what are some of the things that you did that maybe somebody else can take away from your story? Like, I need to do what Stacy did because I've been through something like this.
Yeah, the healing process, it definitely takes longer and I'm still not over her death.
Right. Of course.
Right. Yeah. But you know, getting over him was quite quick, which I appreciated. And I think it was because I already knew he wasn't what God had for me. And I had started already understanding what it meant, what joy really looked like. And when I broke up with him, two amazing things happened. First of all, I told you I did it over the phone. And my brother, I was at my mom's house. My brother was probably 12 at the time. And as soon as I hung up the phone, I walked out of my bedroom door. He'd been listening. I walked out my bedroom door, and this little boy's like,
yes,
it's about time.
Right.
It was so great. It was so great, which was affirmation that I needed. Yeah. And then it's funny, you know, as you go down the line and you tell people that you broke up with them, they're like, thank God. Like, I can't believe you're with that guy. And then my first thought is, why didn't you tell me? But I probably would. But who knows if I would have listened, right? Who knows? Right. But still, tell your girls, if you don't like them, tell them and let them know why. What you see.
I have put all my friends on notice.
Yes,
if you see something, hear something, feel weird about something, you better tell me.
Full permission. Full permission. Yeah. Full permission. Yeah. And then, so yeah. And the other thing that was amazing that happened, like, I just felt like the sun was brighter. I was dressing differently. I felt lighter. Like, it was just this heaviness was lifted off of my life. And it really was a heaviness because I let this person go that was bringing me so much pain. He had squashed my joy. He had squashed my self-esteem. And just moving through that and recognizing that, no, I'm not those things he called me. I am smart. I am pretty. I do have a nice figure. Like, all those things that he told me, I was having to retrain myself because for all those years that I was with him, I was ugly. I was fat. I was stupid. I was, you know, in his words, no one's ever going to love you or want you, you know? So it was like, I I adhered to that because that's all I knew at the time. But once I was able to extract myself from that situation safely, thank God, I had to retrain myself. And it's still a process at times. You know, they often say that bruises go away much faster than the emotional scars. And that's true. You know, it's
Yeah.
still a bit of a process. And I would just encourage anyone that's going through this, first of all, if you are in an abusive relationship, get out, get help. If you are afraid, there is someone that can help you. You are not alone, and you can get out. That's my first piece of advice, and it's important.
And abuse is more than just somebody hitting you.
Yep.
So he can be abusing you, which was my situation, but never hit you. But I think when, especially growing up in the 90s, like there was that attitude of, girl, if he hit me, I'll be gone. Da, 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 as if that's the only abuse that there is. There's so much more.
So much more. There's emotional, physical, there's spiritual abuse. Like there's
financial.
Yes, there's so many layers to that. And don't take anything for granted, you know, and women, you're smart, and trust your instinct, trust that gut, because that was given to you for a reason and a purpose. Don't ignore that still small voice, and know your worth. And I know this is a big thing that you teach when you coach. Know your value, know your worth. And I say, know your worth and then add tax. And I'm not talking Indiana tax. I'm talking California tax, the highest tax you can add tax to that value. And you're still not even going to be close enough to the value that you really have.
And there it is.
Yep.
And we have to believe that.
Yeah.
We have to believe that.
Yeah. It starts with us. It starts and ends with us. We do. We have to.
Period. Yeah. Okay, so we meet this other guy.
Yeah.
Who disappeared. Well, not disappeared, but he
kind of did. He kind of did.
Well, kind of did. So let's get into that story.
I'll give you the short version.
Yeah.
And this one still sticks in my heart. I'm over him for sure, but the not knowing piece. We met through one of my best guy friends. My mom and his mom were best friends, so. It was his best friend at the time. And it was kind of, in a way, not love at first sight, but it was definitely like, oh, okay, I see you. And it usually takes a lot for me to be like, oh, okay. But he was, you know, physically attractive, and then we hung out and it was so much fun, and he made me laugh, and it was great. And I did feel like for the first time in my life, I was doing everything right. I didn't let my insecurities get the better of me, because that's the thing. When my vulnerability would be exposed, then my insecurities would be heightened, right? Things that I'd gone through in the past would start to bubble up again. And I feel like with him, I didn't make those mistakes. I was able to temper those thoughts and recognize, no, that's just me. That's not anything he just did or said. That's just me. I need to work on that, still grow through that. And I did that work. And one day he was looking at rings, and the next day he dipped. He came home, he came to my house, and he just said, we need to talk. Those dreadful words, we need to talk. And I was blindsided. I genuinely had no idea. We didn't argue. There was nothing that had happened. There was nothing. And I had known that they were going to go look at rings because my best guy friend at the time had told me. And then, the next thing I know, he says those dreadful words, and I'm like, okay. And he says, we have nothing in common. This is never going to work out. And I was so shocked that I didn't even ask more questions. I asked a couple. I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he just like, we have nothing in common. This will never work out. And I was dumbfounded, completely shocked. Wow. Yeah. And to this day, I have my ideas, and I never asked my best guy friend at the time because I didn't want to put him in the middle. And I have my assumptions of what it could have been, but who knows? Who knows?
So I want to sit there for a second, because when he says that, right? So he's at your house, or okay, and then he leaves. Did you ever send him the dissertation text, letter, phone? Because you know how in those moments, we as women, we want closure. We want to know the why, right? And I know that it sucks to not know the why, But I believe that the why is in the ego,
Mm-hmm.
because we're like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Do you know who I am? Like, like, especially if you believe that that was the best of you that you gave. And,
Yes. Yeah.
you know,
He even told me, he's like, I've never
yeah.
been treated this good in my life. You treat me like $1 million. Like, he even told me that. And that felt great to hear. That's why I think this was all his own insecurities that I wish he could have talked to me about. I wish we could have gotten to the bottom of. But again, I can't teach you to love me if you don't love you.
Yeah.
And right. And that was something I wasn't meant to take on that role. And as much as it hurt, when I tell you I did not get out of bed for 3 days, I did not get out of bed for 3 days. My mom had to come lay with me so I could fall asleep. Like, it was, I was crushed.
Yeah.
Crushed.
Yeah. So then were you able, and that's okay. Cause I don't want, I know people are like, Rika, you're so strong. You're so independent. You're so da-da-da-da-da.
But you can go through the process. You have to allow yourself to go through the process.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, yes, get it out. You know what I mean? But there has to be a moment where you're like, all right, get up. Rika, get up. Stacy, get up.
Yep.
So what was that moment for you? Were you able to just be like, okay, I don't know why, but I need to move on from this?
Yeah. Well, to answer your first question, I apologize. I kind of glazed over that. So, not getting an answer, of course, was very hard. And there was no dissertation text. There was no, hey, can you please just tell me why? The only thing I was concerned about at that time, because his mind was made up and I was not going to chase him or try to convince him.
I know that's right.
Right. I mean, I was not going to chase him or convince him. Here's the thing. I know what I bring to the table, so I am not going to beg for you to give me a seat.
At all.
No. And if you don't think I belong at the table, I'm gonna bring a folding chair. So just be okay with that, because I will squeeze in. But
I'm Steve Urkel in that moment. He would always be like, I don't have to take this anymore. I'm going home. Like, I don't. Okay, you don't like me. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The only thing I was concerned about was he was on my cell phone plan. So I'm like, oh, heck no. Like, I'm not going to continue to, no. So that was the only thing I did. I sent him a text and I said, just so you know, I've called the phone company. You need to handle your business because you will be cut off.
I know that's right.
I mean, listen, and it wasn't a vindictive thing. It was just like, hey, get off my plan. You're not my man. So it was like that.
Make a t-shirt. That rhymes.
I know, that would be a good t-shirt. Put it on a pillow. Put it on a pillow.
I should put it on one. Exactly. Because how many of us do that? Do you know how many cell phone plans I done been on with a boyfriend?
Yeah, that was my only one. That was my first and my last.
Yes. Girl, I had the two, the abusive ex and the $10,000 boyfriend. Lord. But I like that. Get off my plan. You ain't my man.
That's right. That's exactly right. And then to answer your second question, after 3 days, and I had some wonderful friends. Oh my God. Along with my mom, I had some wonderful friends, and a girlfriend of mine, her sons both played baseball. And she had come over to my house and she's like, I know you haven't eaten. So she gave me some crackers. She gave me some water. She's like, listen, your nephews have baseball games. Just come outside with me. Just come to the game. Just
get some vitamin D, boo-boo.
Yeah. And I was very stoic, and I definitely wasn't myself. But I sat there and I watched the game, and I was so grateful. I will always be indebted to her for getting me up out of the house. But I needed to go through that process. I need to grieve. I can't just run on to the next thing. I have to allow myself to grieve, because then that really allows me to detach and to let go. So,
and this is not my philosophy, but I hate when people say, and listen, y'all can live your life the way you want to live. I'm just saying it's probably not the best. But I hate when people say the way to get over one man is to get under another.
Yep. I've heard that many times. I can't do it. It's not my thing. To me, that's adding trouble to already brokenness. I can't.
So you're just putting a Band-Aid over, because I would be concerned if say we were really close at that time and I was your friend. I'm glad she did that, but I would be concerned if you weren't crying for 3 days after this. You know what I mean? After a week, I'm gonna be like, all right, now we done. Let's get some journals out and let's start praying and let's whatever. But I again, like I said, I don't want anybody to think that I am somebody who was like, don't have feelings, girl, just cut him off.
Oh yeah.
But
there's a place for that. There's definitely a place for that.
yes. But for the learning lesson in this moment is that you accept, even though you didn't know the why, you accepted it.
Yeah.
Cried, moved on.
That's right. That's right.
Because there are some women who are like, well, how I need to find out, or I just need to know, or I remember when my $10,000 boyfriend, it's so funny that we have the similar threads. And really, this is all my guests, especially the women that I have on here. There are so many similar threads to our stories. In this house right here, my couch is right here. My little $10,000 boyfriend came over and told me that he was still in love with his ex and that I had it two together.
Oh.
And at that time, that was after my abusive ex. So I was like you, because I felt the same. I gave, I'm confused.
Right. I have it two together, and that's an issue for you.
For a man who ain't got it together. Yes. Right. Because I made him look at himself in the mirror, because I was just like you. I felt like I was so good in that relationship. I knew how to open up. I knew how to be vulnerable. I was trying to, and that's where I messed up, trying to get him to be vulnerable. But yeah, he said that, and I was like, okay, when you leaving? Because you at my house. And since I have it two together, bye.
Exactly.
And yes, it hurt, girl. And even, I think I posted this on Instagram the other day. It's been now almost 3 years. But even now, I'm like, how can somebody do, it makes me angry if I think about it too much. Like, I'm over him for sure. But it just, so that's why I get it when women are like, I just need to know why. But I always just try to teach that you just got to move on. It's a choice, sweetheart. You have to make that choice. Yeah,
you have to. You have to.
And you will be a better woman for it, like you said, if you're not chasing after him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the likelihood of you getting the answer that you want is not going to be good enough anyway, you know, and what would it serve if I got the answer and he said, well, you're too XYZ and it wasn't nice. You know, what's that going to serve? Then I carry that for the rest of my life.
It's not going to be good, because the fact is he left you and you didn't want him to.
So it doesn't matter. Exactly right. That's exactly right.
It could be, I hate myself. I'm too insecure. Like, even if a guy tells you I'm too insecure, so I don't want you to date me, sometimes we try to still stay.
For sure.
I can
So I just need to love you harder. I need to love you better.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about, there's a couple of okay, where do I want to go next? Because you got some good stuff. I know we still need to talk about your book and your clothing line that's coming out. But before we get to your book and the clothing line, look, my Aunt LaTanya said he doesn't even know why. Exactly. And we over here asking him why. He like, I don't know.
Thank you, Auntie. Exactly.
Okay, so let's go to your celibacy journey. Because that's something I talk about a lot on this platform. I'm celibate as well, 2.5 years almost. How has your journey been? How long has it been, and why? When did you make that decision?
I've had two massive journeys of celibacy. And the first one was after my college boyfriend, because that was something else that I had realized. Had I never been intimate with him, I truly believe I would not have stayed for 3.5 years. Because
it's blinding. It's blinding.
Yes. And when you have that connection, it just changes everything. So I was abstinent for 12 years after that relationship. And 12 years, I know some people are like, just fell off their sofas. But
12 years.
12 years. And I was in my prime, like I was in my 20s and 30s. But the thing is, two things were going on. First of all, I was so just tunnel visioned into my career. I was not going to let anything or anyone derail me. So it was easy not to worry about that. And it was also easy because I had no interest in anybody. I hadn't met anybody worth a darn. There was no temptation. There was none of that. I didn't have to worry about it. So to me, it was like, God's like, I'm gonna make this real easy for you. I'm gonna give you lots of work and I'm gonna give you no temptation. So I'm like, thank you. So that's how I was able to do 12 years. And at this point, I'm about 6.5 years in to this round of celibacy. And I actually had one of my pastors tell me at a certain point, you're a born again virgin. And I'm like, I'll take that. Like, especially in my 12-year journey, I'm like, okay, I'll take that. Cause I really wish I could take that back from the college boyfriend to give that to my husband. So, but yeah, I'm 6.5 years into this journey of celibacy, and same concept. I'm not interested in anybody. I haven't met anybody. I feel like my dating pool has pee in it right now. So
especially living in LA, I'm like, is it harder or easier in LA?
It's terrible.
Like easier.
It's harder. People are so flaky here. They have no desire to follow through. I've tried a couple of dating apps, and it's like they're happy with just texting you. They have no follow through. I need a real man. I want to be courted. I want to be, again, I just want a real man. I like the old school thinking and that kind of thing. And it's hard to find these days.
Yeah.
So,
So it makes the journey of celibacy easier than, especially in LA, when you're like, well, if this is
absolutely
the options, I'm good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have no problem. I have no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel here in the Tri-Cities. I'm like, but when I moved to Arizona, Lord, we going to. All right, Lord, I'm gonna have to learn karate because I feel like the devil is definitely going to try to tempt me. Like, oh, well, you said this, but here's a guy on a platter, so I'm definitely gonna have to watch myself. Now, do you have rules around your journey of celibacy? Like, are guys allowed to come to your house? What are kind of your rules in the dating world out there in LA?
It's been so long. Like, I really haven't even, I've gone out on a few dates out here. But no guys have come to my house. I may let someone pick me up. I'm trying to think. There was one gentleman that I didn't date him, but we went out on a few dates. I really enjoyed his company. I let him pick me up, but never come in the house. Because my underwear's here. I don't want to let somebody come into my house. It's too important. That's too private. Yeah, it's gonna
my underwear is here. So you can't come in. Underwear lives here. This is where the underwear resides.
Yeah, no, it's too private right now. I don't know you like that.
Oh my God. I love it. I love it. Okay. So I asked you in the questionnaire, what was your personal philosophy on dating and relationships, college years? And what's the philosophy now? Do you remember what you wrote? I can read it to you, and then
read it to me. Yeah, read it to me.
So you said that years ago you thought that relationships would be perfect and fight. Yeah. Because we will love each other so much, so we won't fight. Now you realize that's only in Hollywood chick flicks. Do you want to continue that?
Yeah. I mean, when I was thinking, I'm like, just those words really came out of my mouth. I'm just like, oh, we're never gonna fight. We're just gonna be in bliss. No, honey, no. That was little sweet, hopeful Stacy. I do not believe in perfection, and I do not believe in perfect relationships, but I do believe in strong ones. And I believe communication is key. One of my favorite things when I meet couples that have been together for 40, 50, 60 plus years, my first question is, why do y'all stay together so happily and joyfully? Like, what is it? What's your why? And they say the communication is key. And I believe that. And I spent a lot of years in and out of relationships not using my voice enough and not speaking my truth enough. I would set boundaries. Yeah, I would set boundaries. But when it came to, because I didn't want to sound insecure. I didn't want to sound needy. But you know what? No, I get to use my voice.
We don't want to be mean. We're like, oh, I have to be nice. I'm a girl. I'm supposed to be nice, or that's mean.
That's right. But we get to use our voice. We have a voice. We get to use our voice. It's important to use our voice. And heated discussions, I think, are important You know, if you and your mate don't see eye to eye on something, good. Have a conversation about it. Like take each other to round 3 on that conversation. But you can still do that in a very loving, respectful way. Even if you don't agree, you can still find common ground to say, okay, you know what? I respect where you are. I'm in a different place, but I respect where you are. And that's something that I've really grown into as well. And that's what I appreciate about my singleness, is because all of this time, not being in relationship, just getting to really understand what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like to use my voice, to step into my power, to step into my femininity, and not have anybody to answer to. I'm ready to put all of this into practice with a great guy. So I'm really grateful though for the singleness for that reason.
I love how you said, I'm ready to put this into practice. I feel like that's where I am now this year. Last year, I definitely, 2019 and 2020, especially 2020, come on. I definitely was like, I am not dating, I'm cool. But that, my excitement around moving is not only do I get to move, I get to be in a forever summer, but it's that too. Like, I want to be able to practice these skills that I have now honed and am teaching. Which is also why I don't call myself a dating coach. I'm a self-love coach and a boundaries coach, because we have to get that together first. And we have to hone our voice so we can speak up when something's awry in a relationship. But I like how you said that. Like, I want to put into practice what I've been learning. I want to go back, because I think this is a teaching moment as well. I know that there is a bucket of unhealthiness in arguing. There's a lot of unhealthiness over here. But like you said, we are gonna have confrontation. I mean, it's just, nothing is perfect, right? And so there is a bucket of healthiness. And I know you're not in a marriage right now, and neither am I, but I'm wondering if you have defined that for yourself. What would be unhealthy for you if you did get into a disagreement with said boyfriend or whatever? What would be completely off limits, unhealthy? He's not for you. Where is that line? Because I know, because I see these comments, questions I get, Facebook groups I'm in with women asking all these questions about, well, what if my man does this? Is this okay or is this not okay? So for you, where is that line? Because this could be a teaching moment.
One of my triggers is feeling like I'm not heard, like I'm not listened to. That's a huge trigger for me. It's a loaded question only because every relationship is different. Every man is different. Every approach is different. I think it goes back to communication. You know, if it's a situation, there's a lot to be said for not going to bed angry. Because I won't sleep. Like if we have an argument or something's not feeling right or sitting right, I won't sleep. The men can fall straight asleep, which drives me insane. And then they snore like they're bragging. It's not okay. But what I love is the notion that you can arrive at common ground in the best way possible through communication. No, the voice does not need to be raised. Interruptions are going to happen because, you know, people are so excited about what they're going to say next, or they're so passionate about what they're going to say next. So there's grace there. But at the same time, let each other finish their sentences, hold space. My brother talks about this a lot, holding space, because he's a coach as well. He coaches people through their childhood trauma, and he's so gifted and he's so talented. His name's Matthew Pates. If anyone ever, if you need any help in the trauma area, he's brilliant at what he does. And holding space for people is so crucial. And this goes into any relationship, holding space. And for whatever reason, whatever the argument may be, whatever that unhealthy stuff is in the bucket, I say turn that bucket upside down and find a way to get it into the healthy side. And some of those ways to get it into the healthy side, the healthy bucket, is, again, just allowing each other to speak their mind, holding space. Even if you don't agree, even if it's hurting your feelings, hold space, let them get it out, and then ask them, Where does that come from? Or why do you feel that way? Let's use the term neglect. That's just the first one that came up for me. If your man says, I'm feeling neglected and I don't want to talk to you right now. Well, hold on a second. What makes you, how have I made you feel neglected? Because that is certainly not my intention. Tell me, give me an example, please. Because if I did that, I don't want to repeat that. You know, at least you're hearing them, you're listening to them. And then hopefully, given that approach, he'll be able to go into it more, and then you can get to the bottom of it. And that's just a slim example because there's so many different ways that could go.
Right. That we are not going to get to. And look, and we've gone over an hour already, which happens on every podcast. I swear. I'm like, yeah, it'll just be an hour. And then it ends up being like an hour and 25. But what I will say on that is, I love how you said holding space. Shout out to Matthew. I need to follow him. I haven't.
You should. Oh, you'll love him. Yes.
But the holding space, right? So I felt like especially my abusive relationship, anytime I would like question him or be like, I don't, there would be the dismissal of your feelings, of my feelings. Like, oh, you're stupid to think that, basically. He may not have said it in those words, but that's gaslighting, right? So you, as we said earlier, you are allowed to bring up something if you're feeling uncomfortable. If my abusive ex would just tell me why and ask questions more than a dictatorship.
Yeah.
That to me is emotional intelligence. Like, yo, I'm feeling this way. And so, and I just feel like the tone of voice as well.
Yes.
He would always be up here. Yeah.
I don't do tone.
Girl, let me tell you about my attitude now. Who are you talking to? Like,
you're like looking behind you, like, I know that's not.
Is he talking to me? Because I don't. This ain't the old Rika. Don't let the old way that I used to maneuver through relationships confuse you, because you about to get messed up. Like, so okay, let's end it on. Hold on, I feel like I have to call. See, look, my attitude made me swallow my spit in the wrong way because I felt like you were yelling at me, and I was like, "See, here I come."
You were ready to throw down there for a second.
Exactly. Okay, so I asked you on the questionnaire, and this is one of the last questions that I always ask: is what lesson do you want my listeners to walk away with? Did we miss anything? Is there anything that you want to say about relationships, or something that younger Stacy needed to hear that maybe somebody else needs to hear right now, whether she's 25, 35, 55?
The best day of your life will be the day that you recognize and own the fact that you are more than enough for you. And when you're more than enough for you and you own that and you walk in that, girl, you have so much to offer this world, and it's magnetic. And when you know that you're enough for you, you can't help but bring in the good that you deserve.
Self-awareness is your superpower. Yes, like that's what I heard. Like,
yep. Self-awareness is an important thing.
I love it. So now let's talk about your book, and I'm going to pull up your website as well. Because I have to end it on that. Like, that was good. Okay, so your book, which I didn't even know you had a book until last week, but you said it came out in January, so I'm not super late, but I will be buying it.
Thank you.
But what is your book about? And how can we find it? Is it on your website? Because I'm also going to pull up your website as well.
It might be on the website now under books. I had my guy that runs my website add that, but I have a copy right here. It's called Blocked.
Yay.
And it is an unobstructed dating narrative about the undesirable. It's a comedy. It is. Yeah, it's a compilation. I started this back in 2017, and it's a compilation of stories that I've gathered from a lot of girlfriends and guy friends over the years from all over the globe. Just crazy, hilarious, silly dating stories. And it's just really a lot of fun. And it just brings light to the dating idea, you know, because it can be exhausting. It could be hurtful at times. And this book is just, it's just a play on, you know, part of dating is being hopeful. And the other part is having a glass of wine or a whole bottle and laughing at some stories that you may relate to. And there's some really good ones in here. But you can find it's on Amazon worldwide. I'm told it's a little tougher to find by the title, Blocked. But if you search my name, and it's spelled Paetz, that you might be able to find it a little bit easier. But yeah, it's just a fun, silly story that I put together. Yeah. And then something that I'm going to let you and your viewers know, no one else is privy to this until you right now.
Hey.
On the book, you'll see it's made like an iPhone. So it's called Blocked, and you have the decline. And then I put nope, because nope, we're not even going to talk. Not even going to go there. Because I block a lot of guys because I don't play, and it's one of those things. So that's why it's called Block. But then up here, I intentionally put 4:23 p.m. and 4:23 is from Proverbs 4:23, and it's above all things, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And that is so valuable, that we have to guard our heart, and we're called to guard our heart. We can be open, but you got to be guarded a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. I love it. Okay. And then your Instagram is, I'm going to pull this up as well.
Thank you.
Over here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Stacy Paetz.
That's me.
Look at all them followers.
Oh, shoot.
One day. What are you in LA? Obviously, I know you're working. What are you working on now?
This weekend, I'll begin traveling for Major League Rugby, and it's on CBS and Fox. And I just started covering rugby in 2018, and I absolutely love it. The culture is incredible. These men will be pounding each other's heads into the dirt all day long, and then go have beer together and call each other brother. Like, it's the coolest thing. And P.S., working in rugby also has made me realize that I really would love to marry a man with an accent, like English, right? Australian, South African, you know, because even though we're trying to grow the sport in the US, a lot of these athletes are from Fiji, they're from South Africa, they're from, you know, all over the world. So it's really special. And I've been treated so well. You know, this culture is just so different. The way they treat women, the way they treat each other, the way it's just a very elevated professional league, which I really love.
Well, there you have it, Stacy. Shalonda says, Shalonda writes, I am more than enough for myself. That is now my new mantra. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being open to sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
As you know, you never know who is going to hear your story. You know, I believe that we all have assignments. We just don't know who they are, right? And we are supposed to. That's why God wants us to share with one another. And it could be your voice over mine even that gets a woman to leave a situation, to heal from a situation, or never be in this type of situation. So thank you. Thank you for being on Single You, the podcast, Stacy. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. And more importantly, thank you for the work you do. Your heart is so big and beautiful. I don't know how you walk around with a heart made of gold and diamonds, but thank you. Thank you for the work you do, because you are saving lives and you're loving on these women that are getting to see themselves in a new way.
Thank you. I'm going to put Stacy in the waiting room real quick, and we will end on this. As you know, Single You, the podcast live is every Wednesday at 6 p.m. West Coast time. So that's Seattle time, right? Like Seahawks all day. So East Coast time, I believe that's 9 p.m. Okay. Now, Single You, the podcast, if you have missed an episode, don't you worry, girl. I got you. You can, let's see. Nope. Hold on. There we go. All right. So Single You, the podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. The latest episode dropped this morning. So you say you're a Proverbs 31 woman or want to be. You say you want a good, godly man. We talk about that. And we talk about that silhouette challenge. Yeah, that podcast episode is available for you to listen to right now. My name is Rika. I will see you next Wednesday at 6 p.m. If you ever have any questions, my DM is open to you. Do not hesitate. It won't be weird. You're not a dude trying to hit on me. You're just a girl trying to ask a question. All right. See you next Wednesday.
I won't make it easy for you now. You got 2 minutes of my time, and I don't really break too easily, but I'm worth it, 'cause I'll slip into your dreams tonight. Oh, so give me your all. I'll take it to Mars. Oh, I'll stick like glue inside your mind. Just watch me breaking